if you're a business owner, your email list is gold, aka where the money is at. And one of the most fun ways to grow your email list and nurture your email list is with a newsletter. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Amanda Kolbye and I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur and business coach that helps service-based entrepreneurs start and scale their online business using social media. So on this channel, you're gonna find all things marketing, business, entrepreneur life, digital nomad life, because I also travel the world, and lots of good content to help you really thrive in your business. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's talk about email lists. Let's go. So in today's video, I broke it down into 4 parts. You can see all the little sections on the bottom there. The first one is why you should have a newsletter, what not to do, some tips on making your newsletter the best, and then we're going to dip into my computer here and actually show you some stuff in Canva and ActiveCampaign for creating your own newsletter. So first, let's talk about why you should have a newsletter. I want to clarify that a newsletter is not just another email that we are sending out, but I do actually really encourage that as well. If you are going to be trying to use your email list to sell and continually grow this amazing audience, just like you do on Instagram or TikTok or any other social media platform, we're bringing leads in, but then once they're there and just sitting there, we really need to nurture them. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see, whether this is in a newsletter or just in general with your email list, is just regurgitating content to like check off this box that I emailed my list. And I did tons of market research on Instagram to ask my audience what it is that they hate about email lists and people emailing them and newsletters and all these things, and what they loved as well. And those are some of the biggest things were being too long, too salesy, and regurgitating content. Skipping right to that, those are a couple things not to do. So when we're looking at why should you actually have a newsletter beyond just some regular emails with some juicy content that you're emailing your list that's not regurgitated, newsletters need to have a specific functionality, a specific purpose. Give people a reason to subscribe to that newsletter, not just your list as a whole. So whether that is because you give exclusive tips or interviews, or because you give information about X, Y, and Z, this is going to vary based on you, your business, and your industry. But why you actually want to do this and provide value in this unique way is because with a newsletter, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however long it is, it creates this habitual thing for people to look for and expect to open your emails and continually look forward to some of that habitualness that maybe is repeated throughout the newsletters. It's also really important because your email list as a whole is a great plane or arena for you to sell to. But you can't sell if we're not nurturing people, and that's what the newsletter is really going to serve as. The other big things that why you want a newsletter are the same reasons why you want a really juicy email list, right? Like, we own all the people on our list, and we get to control the medium in which they are getting that email, right? As long as we can get our deliverability rates up, we're not messing with any algorithm or introducing reels and all these other things into the mix. And actually sending out a newsletter and those habitual emails are going to help build trust with your audience, which again is going to translate into sales. Now, what not to do with a newsletter is regurgitate content. So for example, if you have an Instagram post and our whole newsletter is just saying, hey, I have a podcast and here's my Instagram post from this week and here's my other thing from this week, people don't love that based on market research, but 2, you're also training your audience that they don't actually need to open your emails, because if they're following you on Instagram and following your podcast and following these other places, they already saw that stuff, right? So it could serve as a nice reminder, but if there's no other purpose of that email or of that newsletter, again, you're training your audience that when you email them, it's not that important. And that's not going to serve us well when we've trained an audience and then all of a sudden we have a really important sales email we want them to open and read. The other things that really turn people off are too much text, too salesy, and just irrelevant content. So think about this from the user perspective, not from your perspective of what you just want to get out there and get in their inboxes. What do they want to actually open and read? So I definitely recommend you doing your own market research, not just starting a newsletter because everyone else has a newsletter. Now, before we dive into all the tips and strategies for building a newsletter, if you are someone that doesn't really have a big email list yet, definitely check out this video here where I walk you through how to start and grow your email list and what makes up a really, really high converting freebie, which is most likely for most of you going to be really, really important and essential for helping grow your list with quality people that do want to open all these amazing newsletters that y'all are going to create. Okay, so let's look at some tips for helping you make the best possible newsletter. One of them is keep it pretty short. People have a very limited attention span, so no matter how much you want to fit in there, try and be really, really picky about what it is that you want to include in every single newsletter, whether it's the same or not the same. The second thing that's really important is easy to skim. So for me, this is a principle that I look at on websites, on sales pages, on Instagram captions, on all the things, because we, again, have so many different pieces of content and things happening in our brains and in our world. So attention is one of the most valuable things to get from your audience and one of the hardest things to get and keep. So you may just have some people that open the newsletter and skim, and that's just that. But also skimming is really important for people to figure out, what do I want from this newsletter? So if it is like a wall of text or too many things happening, it feels overwhelming to the point where we're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to work to find what I want to read. So whether you have really distinct sections or headlines, different things like that, there's a lot of ways to help the skimmability of your newsletter. One of the biggest things to take into consideration with that is hierarchy. So if you're not familiar with visual hierarchy, this is a design principle that literally everyone should know, because it's going to help you get your point across of what is most important. So when you look at any single page or image, our eyes naturally follow a certain pattern based on hierarchy. The first thing that eyes are typically drawn to is an image. So if you are looking at a newsletter like this one, the first thing that's going to capture your eyes, even when just subconsciously, is going to be an image. Now, if there's a second image, then your eyes typically might skim right away to that second image, unless there's another hierarchical piece in between that. The next hierarchy piece there is going to be size. So size can be taken into consideration with the images, of course, but next it's most likely going to be some sort of piece of text. So very naturally, you probably already know this as a consumer, if there's a big giant title, then the size is the next thing that's going to determine that I'm going to look at that next. The next thing that draws our attention is color. So just because there's a smaller, let's say, blue piece of text, but there's a big black title, the size takes hierarchy and precedent first over the color. So we're going to look at that title, then we're going to look at anything that's maybe colorful, so you can use color to then direct people's attention as well. The other three elements that are going to direct where our eyes go and in what order our eyes follow thing is going to be boldness, or maybe a certain aspect to the text that looks a little bit different. The next thing is going to be spacing. So this isn't just spacing of letters, but actually utilizing white space and gaps is going to help break things up and help our eye follow certain things or be drawn to certain areas. And the last thing is going to be contrast. So contrasting colors, contrasting layouts or images or fonts, anything like that that is, again, contrasting, is going to naturally catch our eye. Keep into consideration as you're building your newsletter that people get 1 million emails in their inbox a day, and they're opening it up very quickly to determine, do I want to keep reading? So while these hierarchy principles are important in everything, in my opinion, they're especially important in email marketing for you to really capture someone's attention and get them to read the things you want them to read. So keep in mind as well that with all these hierarchy principles, people read in an F formation. So they go across, actually for you guys, probably across, and then down. The other tips you need to know about your newsletter is you need to make it valuable. I know this almost seems obvious and like it should go without being said, but again, a lot of times we feel like this is a box we need to check of like, oh my gosh, okay, I emailed my list or I started a newsletter. But don't start something unless you're ready, and don't start something unless you are ready to commit to it fully, not just going through the motions. Because if you want people to open and value your newsletters out of all the other emails in their inbox, you need to make it valuable and relevant to your ideal client. 2 more tips for you is 1, make something exclusive about it. So like I was talking about before, if people know that your newsletters or your emails are just regurgitated content, that's not super exclusive. It doesn't give them a reason to really open that. So pick something exclusive or kind of extra and different that you don't do elsewhere to include in your newsletter. And the last thing kind of goes off of hierarchy, but we want to catch their attention. So not everything needs to be like these fancy photos and colors and all of these things. That can be simple, especially with concepts, not just from the hierarchy aspect, but whether that's a fun GIF or an infographic that you include, or maybe just a super relevant and eye-catchy photo. So now that we've talked about all the different strategies and kind of tips and tricks with newsletters, let's actually look at some examples and dive into both Canva and ActiveCampaign, which is where we build our newsletters. And if you are someone who's looking to really develop these skills with tech and design and copywriting and all of those things, whether for yourself or to help serve clients, definitely check out one of our signature programs, Skills Mastery Academy, in the links below, which is the only membership-based course hub specifically designed for service-based entrepreneurs to learn skill sets in the context of serving clients and in the environment in which we interact with these skills in, beyond tech tutorials. So we've got tons of different courses inside, from YouTube management, podcast editing, that'll teach you all these skills and how to serve them for your clients or utilize them with your team. Okay, so let's take a look inside my computer. We're gonna dive into Canva and ActiveCampaign. Okay, so as you can see on my screen here, we are in Canva, and this is where we build all of our different graphics once we had our initial branding. So this is a somewhat mock-up of a bunch of different sections that we thought we could have that feel really aligned and on brand for our newsletter. So our newsletter is called the Weekly Memo, and as you scroll down here, you can see, you know, we just kind of built out these different blocks for our newsletter. Now, our actual newsletter is not all images like this. These are just a bunch of different ones that we kind of wanted to see together and test out, and then we made templates for all of them. So to make templates, we chose all of our different sizes and took those main designs and then moved them all here. So let's look at a couple examples for how you can design this in Canva. So this is our header. And so for this, you're just gonna start a new page. You might have to mess around with the different sizes and uploading them into ActiveCampaign, which I'll show you in just a minute, to see what fits and how you want things to be laid out. But we're just gonna go over here and let's click a nice image. Let's maybe click this one. We're going to drag it all out here. If you aren't familiar with Canva, it's very, very easy to use, but you can watch some tutorials here on YouTube. And then, you know, let's take this text. So we just went over here to text and we hit add, and let's type in memo, and then we're gonna pick our font that we want and resize all of this. So as you can see, it's pretty easy. We're just gonna build what we want. Now, if we have a custom section, let's say like this, and we wanted this section to be a tip for the week, and then this one to be like a card pull or journal prompt. Let's do like, maybe you give a journal prompt. So for us to utilize these and put these into ActiveCampaign, then we're gonna first come into Canva here, customize all the different graphics that we wanna use. And for us, we outline all of our content in ClickUp. So we might also outline, you know, which sections do we wanna include in the newsletter this week. And of course, find all of that information, articles, books, podcasts, whatever it is that we're linking to or writing. After we've got that outline, we come into Canva, we make the graphics here. And we're gonna go ahead and save them. So you're just gonna come up here, download, save as PNGs, pick which ones you wanna save, and save all of those that you're gonna be utilizing. Then we're gonna come over here to ActiveCampaign, and I'll show you how to upload this, but this is what our first edition of the memo ended up looking like. So as you can see, we do have some plain text areas, and I personally think that can be really good, as we learned that white space does play a really important role in not overwhelming people with too much to look at, and also for deliverability. Sometimes if you get too many images in a email, it can hinder the deliverability. So I want you to see, as you go through this, some different principles that we've used, from hierarchy to color to boldness to images and size. And notice how easy it is to scroll through and have your eye directed to the things that I want you to see, or be able to skim and say, okay, is this for me? Do I want to read more? Maybe yes, maybe no. But these are a couple different examples of like the titles and all the things that you've learned in today's video and what you're seeing them look like in real life. So we are coming here into ActiveCampaign, and we're going to create a new email to show you how you're going to combine all of this and upload it to ActiveCampaign. So you're going to select your list. For us, we have a newsletter list, and then you can create a template in ActiveCampaign. So if you do have very habitual sections or whatnot, or layout, then you definitely would want to create a template for that. But we're just going to start from scratch and show you guys how this is going to work. So let's just say memo and then title of email and hit continue. You can always change that later if you want. And here we go. So the first thing we're going to drag over is an image block. Again, every different email marketing platform is going to operate a little bit differently, but this is how you would do this in ActiveCampaign. We're going to search for a new image. We are going to upload. So we're going to add a file, add all of our images here that we downloaded from Canva. And then it's going to be very simple for us to click and choose which one we want to upload. So let's go find our header, which is right here. We're going to select the image. Bam. We can also, resize it how we want to resize it. The other thing with ActiveCampaign is we can put things next to each other. So if I wanted this, if this was a square image and I wanted another square image, we can do that. We can add text blocks here as well and go ahead and copy and paste whatever we've written out and we wanted there. We can also add buttons so that we can say, hey, listen to this podcast. And we're going to add the link up at the top here, and we can format it with our colors to be on brand. So as you are putting, this is obviously not a full ActiveCampaign tutorial, but as you are putting all of this together and deciding what do you want in your newsletter, this is really how we're going to piece all of the pieces of the puzzle together to build that final product, is blocks of those images, blocks of text, and just then spacing things out to get our point across and to make this look really professional and cohesive. And then, of course, adding any hierarchy elements, with our text, like we can bold certain pieces, we can make things clickable. And so really remembering back to those principles we learned so that you are getting across what you want to get across, but also we're putting out really valuable, juicy information that our audience wants to open every week or however often we send out newsletters. So with that being said, I hope you are excited to start ideating your new newsletter. Please don't skip doing market research so you can actually figure out, what is something that my audience isn't currently getting? How can I stand out and be a little bit different in my industry in this newsletter so that, again, it gives people a reason to want to open my emails all of the time. Then you can work on the design, the layout, the actual context of what's going to be inside of your newsletter, and add that to some sort of a cadence to serve your audience so that they know what to expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us creating all this good content for you. If you want to see our newsletter in action, we'll put the link in the description below, and you can sign up for the memo, which is our weekly newsletter that helps entrepreneurs stay up to date on business and marketing trends in a lot of different spaces, as well as get some exclusive good content from us, which you'll be able to see if you sign up. And you can check out some of our other videos here all about growing your online business, Instagram marketing, sales, and traveling the world.